You are listening to Something Rather Than Nothing. Creator and host, Ken Vellante. Editor and producer, Peter Bauer.
This is Ken Vellante with the Something Rather Than Nothing podcast, and I am so excited to welcome back Suziey Block, favorite actress and scream queen. Suziey, before jabbering about you and your films, welcome onto the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. Really.
It's nice to
Absolutely.
spend time with you again, and just chatting about some like cool art stuff. And I've been interested in some of the art environments that you've been around. I'm a big horror movie fan, and just to kind of like prelude what we're going to get into, talk your experiences at Burning Man as a creative environment, as a creative person, that type of creativity environment. But I think what's really cool is chat about art and scream movies and the whole thing. So Suziey, first of all, without going on any further, audience, Suziey has been appointed, basically installed as Something Rather Than Nothing's official scream queen, this art and philosophy podcast. And I wanted to thank you, Suziey, because of my love for your films. It's a great honor to me that you've accepted this role, and I wanted to thank you for it and wanted to know if you had any comments about such.
Just that I'm super grateful. That's really, really nice. I appreciate it a lot. It's nice to get recognized for your work always. So yeah, thank you. I don't know. I didn't prepare a speech. I love my mom.
You too.
Thanks for birthing me, and I don't know. But yeah, it was great. It was super unexpected, and yeah, I really appreciate it, especially around the spooky season. So cool.
Spooky season it is, and appreciating your Frankenhooker shirt, rock.
Yeah.
And folks, this is audio, but maybe this special shirt, maybe Suziey will share the wonderful shirt. Also being recorded in the mesmerizing city of Portland by a cemetery, within a cemetery for recording environment, a beautiful fall crisp afternoon in the Pacific Northwest, and reaching one of our favorite guests, Suziey Block. Okay, Suziey, I want to get into the horror first because let's be honest,
Sure.
that's the real reason we're here. I want to know, and you tell me about your favorite go-to slasher movie, and I'm talking about go-to when you like, this is my jam in my head, Slasherville. I need to get those yayas out. Like, what is your go-to played film and why?
It'd be Scream, the original Scream. The sequels are good too, but definitely if I could put Scream on at any time and just watch it. If it's on TV, sometimes it does like play on regular cable. It's one of those movies that I'll like sit down and watch if it's on. I can quote it from the beginning to the end. I just love it. I think it's clever. I think it's funny. I love movies that are like make you jump and then make you laugh and then make you think, and you don't know who the killer is till the very end. That's always fun. And that's what I love about Scream. Yeah, it's well written. It's well acted. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
Got good gore. Yeah.
Let's talk about the acting, right? Like, I think in horror, and you must feel this in your work experience, like one of the things I bitch about is like the performances that you see in horror, and because our like hierarchy of film, like of what proper film is, like so many amazing performances are missed. And I think Scream's a perfect example of just like banger performances one after the other with like big names, and they're all meshing together. And I think very highly of your favorite go-to movie.
Yeah, I think the acting, and I think a lot of horror movies have amazing acting, and I think sometimes it's overlooked. Not just Scream, but I think a bunch, because it is really taxing to like cry and scream and run and make it believable and keep doing it over and over and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love even Nev Campbell, who I didn't really love that much in Party of Five. She was kind of blah, but she does really well as Sydney Prescott. Like she's made to play that.
Style. She's got a style.
Yeah, it's definitely like she does really, really well. Rose McGowan's fucking great as well. She's
killer,
hilarious and funny, and her death scene is awesome. Yeah, so good. I mean, even the two of them at the end, the killers at the end, back and forth, they're like whole like partnership and camaraderie. Aha! I did it. I said it. It's so good. So yeah,
it's take that piece, the back and forth. Let's drop down into that exchange right there. That's what I'm talking about. When like you want to see friggin' acting, you want to see like it going on where you're like, is this film like capturing like, is this really something really weird just happened type of acting? Like, and it captures that intensity. And I think you watch that scene, it rattles you. Like you can think what you want of the film or whatever, but like you watch that scene, you'd be like, holy shit, I'm like, it's like you're peeping into something like really bizarre and sick.
They're so fucked up. They're stabbing each other. It's like really intense moment.
All right. You're gonna have to indulge me as the host. I wanted to tell you my favorite go-to slasher movies.
Yes.
And this seems standard, and I'd like to know your initial reaction to it. Friday the 13th.
The first one.
Yep. All the movies I want to talk about. I'm not going to go into each and every movie, but I'll tell my Friday the 13th story. For me, it was like kind of the first just shocking kind of horror that I saw when I was younger. And so the universe that it created that was horror was familiar to me being from New England. So there's a lake aspect, and I didn't spend a lot of time by the lake because I was a city kid, but there's something about that environment that scared the shit out of a city kid. Like, because once you go in the woods, Jason's there, right? So like the impact on popular made
practically mother.
Yeah. Right. And so I've seen all of them a lot, and I talk about them in such a way where maybe my head's too much into fandom. I would admit right off the bat about like Friday the 13th stuff. The fan films, which I love, a couple by Vinny DeSanti, Never Hike Alone, Never Hike Alone 2, both available on YouTube with like millions of views. This is the follow-up of Friday the 13th, and James Sweet, Jason Rising, another one kind of fan fiction. But I love it, and I wanted to tell you my 3 favorite kills and describe them briefly if you'd indulge me, Susie.
Yeah.
My favorite kill, because I'll start from my third favorite and we'll lead up to the top one. My third favorite is in Jason X. There's a Jason attacks one of the shipmates there, and this is in outer space, and Jason pushes the head of the person to cryogenic freeze, and then smashes that freeze and explodes in a million pieces. One of the most amazing creative kills I could think of in outer space. So, it's a tough ride. Jason's in outer space, right?
Yeah.
You still with me?
Yeah. Yes, I'm still with you.
All right.
That makes me think of the kill from Cube, where they like all the 4. I don't know if you like the laser 4, and then the guy just stands there, and then he just crumbles into like 4 million like squared pieces. I don't know. It's like a similar.
I love the description. My second favorite. There's a runner-up, and I hope you appreciate it. It is gruesome, Susie. It's in Friday the 13th Part 3, and this is almost infamous in its just shock and horror. There is a young male camper who has a skill where he can walk on his hands, and he's walking on his hands, so he's walking upside down the hallway. Unfortunately, at the other end of the hallway happens to be a very irate Jason with a machete, and he's cut right through, let's say politely. shocking and gruesome kind of thing that put Friday the 13th on the map for the shock factor. Leading up to my top one, and what I like about the top one is it's in part 7. It's called the sleeping bag kill. And it's the least and most gruesome at the same time. And a quick description of it is Jason kills the male mate of the female camper, so he's down, and he goes to get her, and she's screaming. She's like, "Where are you, Andy?" or something, right? And Jason picks up her sleeping bag, which looks like a banana. It's a big yellow sleeping bag, and slams it into a tree. And it's horrible. It's so horrible. You don't see anything, but I might avoid camping after seeing that for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite kills in Friday the 13th is the first one with Kevin Bacon and the arrow that goes through his neck from underneath
the bed,
pops out of his throat. It's great.
Those effects, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon. It's always good to see his face in that movie. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. He was good in that. It was fun.
The Crispin Glover appearance, I believe, in number 4 is a wonderful performance, and Crispin Glover dancing for those interested in the truly bizarre.
I had a friend who lived in his basement.
Okay. Can you just tell us about that?
Yeah. She said he was so weird. An odd dude. But yeah. Lived in his basement in Silver Lake. Yeah.
I really like you seem to jump to the story connected to what we're talking about, and those stories there. I wanted to ask you about Burning Man, and I've never been there, and I am assuming one thing, that the popular press coverage of Burning Man doesn't connect with maybe a participant's experience. And I just wanted you just to tell us about Burning Man experience, but also the kind of creative environment that you bump into and experience there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to Burning Man since 2015. It was my first year. I did a year of Yes that year, and I never heard of Burning Man. And I was making a film called The Shickles. And the producers of Shickles were big burners. And they kept talking about Burning Man. And I was like, what are you talking? What is this Burning Man? They're like, oh, it's like a art thing in the desert. And I was like, oh. And they're like, you should go. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we could probably get you tickets if you want to go. And I was like, okay, I'll go. I don't know what I'm going to, but I'll go. And I Googled a little bit of it just so that I could pack appropriately. And I had no idea. I showed up. It took 12 hours. I waited in line for 12 hours. And when I finally got through the gates, I just cried because I was like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. It was 1 a.m. I couldn't see anything. It was just, it was insane. And then I woke up the next day and it was unbelievable. The mass amount of there's so many people, yet at the same time, there's moments where you can feel like it's just you, which is crazy as well. I don't really know. I think it's just the magic of Burning Man. I don't know how they do that. But you ride your bike around and you just look at this incredible art that is just made in the desert just for a week, which is also crazy because people put so much hard work into all this art and then they burn it all. Most of it gets burned out there. And that's, I don't know, it's really quite beautiful that they do that. And I started to volunteer. There's a place in the middle of Burning Man called Center Camp. And they were looking for volunteers at a little cafe that they had. So Burning Man, you don't sell, nothing's sold and nothing's bought. It's like a gifting community, but they do sell 2 things. Well, they sell one thing, only thing now. But before, they sold 2 things, which was coffee and ice. So you could go to Center Camp and get a cup of coffee. I think it was them gifting you a bit of normalcy in the insanity that is Burning Man. You could come to the stop and
Grounding.
kind of
Yeah.
chill for a second and like get a cup of coffee and then go about your day. And so I was a barista, and so I volunteered to serve coffee. And then I just started volunteering with them every year and then became on the crew. And then I basically was on the crew at the beginning to set up center camp. And basically, like, it's called decor. We'd put up all these benches, all this like hard work. And then there was a stage in center camp, and for 24/7, they have to have stuff happening. And then I had friends who worked at the stage. So I kind of got pulled over to be on their crew, which is sound and performance. And I've been basically volunteering. So I go early, I go for setup, and I'm out there for almost a month, and I stay for strike, and we build center camp. And it's a really amazing thing because I love being a part of something really larger than myself. I think it's really incredible. And then the art is really inspiring. Like every time I come back from Burning Man, I am always like inspired to like do something creative and being a part of that community is just really, it's amazing. The friends that I have made, the people that I have met have just been, it's incredible. Everyone I feel like at Burning Man is a little more of themselves than they are in the default world, I should say. They feel more free, really who they are. And I think that's really lovely. So
is there, I wanted to ask you,
feel.
you hear the dog barking over there?
That's okay. Is there a dog or is it a ghost dog?
I haven't seen one yet, so that question's unanswered. Burning Man, I want to ask you the question related to what you just said, just to explore it a little further. Idea of impermanence, right? So let me just for a few seconds say, when you think about art, or when I think about art, or you say art to somebody, they tend to think of like this idea of the eternal or the long lasting, the painting, the thing that is revered in protected, or books that'll continue in the voices of people forever, like this idea of permanence. And I think what I hear in what you describe description of Burning Man for me to understand is like within Buddhism of the ash of what disappears, of that behind the things that you think are there is it's loose at the very least. It's very loose. And so what do you think about that? Like the idea of whether art, like temporary versus eternal, like that question, because I think it's directly addressed in the experience. Or am I thinking about this too much?
No, I think the art at Burning Man, some of it does live on, some of it comes back, some of it is placed elsewhere, but most of it is like burned and destroyed. And I think that's art in itself as well. I think the whole experience of it is art, I guess I should say. But I think it's more of people getting together and building something and being a part of it that is bigger than themselves, and then sharing it with, a few 60 to 70,000 people. And then there's so much art at Burning Man as well that you're not going to see it all. That's the crazy thing is, like, I will go online afterwards and I will see photos of things and I'm like, I didn't see that. Where was that? That looks amazing.
That's a strange experience. I've had that experience where it's like a big event, but there's aspects of it that you actually didn't see. So you're like, I was there, but you were there in a particular way, in a certain sense. Like you didn't see that because it was probably active and live, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't just go and think you're going to see everything. You just have to accept the fact that there will be shit that you are just not going to see. But that's okay.
I learned that hard and wonderful lesson. I was lucky enough to have a partner who took me to Woodstock '94 when I was younger. I guess I'm trying to figure out how old I was, maybe 22, and at Woodstock. And one of the wildest things was, because I'm obsessive about music, was that the first day you could go between the two stages. There might even been a third stage rather quickly, not as much people, and it wasn't full of mud. But the next day, you literally had to make, for me, what were existential choices of like, am I going to see like Porno for Pyros over there, or I'm going to see Primus over here, because the trudge would be an hour and a half, like through the mud. And like, I don't need to be hung up about that. Obviously, I'm still talking about, but like for me being so into music, I'd be like, I wish I saw Cypress Hill. Like, I wish I saw, like this and that, where I saw something else that was great. And it's not missing it. It's just but feeling the power of that live event. Like I was there, I saw it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's with the mud at Burning Man this year. That's how it was. You couldn't go look at shit. You had to kind of hang out in the neighborhood, which is at the same time also kind of lovely because there are things close to my camp that I might not have really seen or taken the time to go do.
Yeah.
Not been the limitations that we were in. So it's like, we only, you got to explore like your area, which was really nice. We went, I had a great time. It was muddy, but it wasn't like what the news was saying.
I remember coming back from Woodstock, and my experience, I was told, was that it was bedlam, this and that, and lawlessness, and America's moral scourge has sparked up again. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I saw some weird things, but it was pretty cool, So like,
yeah.
But
exactly. I was like, I had plenty of food and water, and I wasn't. I was just muddy.
All right, Susie. When we talked last, you told me a lot about puppets, and I appreciate any time you spend talking about puppets. That you've done that work, and also the curious story of some of the original Henson type of Miss Piggies and Kermit the Frog and such, and that you learned this skill and craft when you were a barista, if I recall correctly.
Right. Yeah.
And there was an individual outside that did these type of performances, and you were very kind to this person, and essentially a relationship developed. But you ended up getting trained that way. I was fascinated. If you tell us a little bit more about that, and do you have a puppet story that we didn't chat about last time? That I'm so fascinated by those worlds, and so could you riff on some puppets?
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember all the puppets we talked about, but yeah, I actually had a Halloween party last night, and my friend who taught me puppets, Eli, was here. And he did a puppet show for everyone, which was really amazing. He has like a struggling puppet that looks like it's having a bad day and it just crawls around. But he performed for everyone, did a couple shows. But yeah, I tried to do a puppet show at Burning Man this year. I did a puppet show at Burning Man last year.
Did you?
So we have at our stage, we have a line test at Burning Man, where basically it's like a talent show, but as stage crew, it's for us to practice and make sure that we're running well. So everyone on crew can perform something, and I performed a puppet show with a puppet that I built with my friend Eli. And I basically I saw this puppet show back in, I think it's from the 60s. It's a guy who has this clown puppet, and the clown puppet becomes self-aware.
Oh. And
realizes it's a puppet, and it doesn't want to be a puppet anymore. And so it looks up at it's the person controlling it, and it starts to break free.
Yeah.
And it breaks all of its strings, and then what it's left with is the head. And it's the puppet has this choice of either being controlled or dying, because he realizes without the puppeteer he's dead, but he still lobs his head and dies. So I wanted to do something to honor that show, and so I took a puppet I had, who I didn't have her strung to drop her strings. So I had a friend of mine help me, and I labeled all the strings, and we did this rehearsal. And she's this really beautiful puppet that looks almost like a ballerina, kind of Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And she's very tragic looking and sad looking, and she realizes that I'm the puppeteer. And one by one, my friend who was helping me pulled out this big long knife, and would slice through her strings, and the puppet basically dies on stage. And it was crazy because everyone in the audience was really quiet.
Yeah.
And the first string, went. You hear this one girl in the audience, she's like, no! And she gets like really sad. And then when it was over, there wasn't like applause right away. And then everyone started to applaud. And like, I got this like standing ovation, which was like insane. So this year I went back and I brought another puppet to do a show. And because of the first rain that we had at Burning Man, our line test got canceled. So I never got to perform, but so many people came up to me in my camp and was like, you're doing a puppet show, right? You're doing another one, right? Because that was my favorite thing from Burning Man last year was your puppet show. But I didn't get to perform this new one. I had another one that Eli and I have done before together. And it's kind of a funny, weird one about like, there's these 2 baby doll puppets and I have one underneath dirt. So you don't notice one of them. And then it has just this like weird baby doll guy and he dances. And he dances to I Go Walking After Midnight. The Patsy song. And I was going to have a friend of mine sing it who's a guy and slow it down. So it's a little more like creepy. Mm-hmm. Because what he does is he basically digs up the other puppet. And she's limp, but he just like dances with her and like loves her. And then they like lay down in the dirt together at the end. But
That's
I was going to do it.
badass.
I was going to do it under all the playa, like all the dust. So he's going to unearth her from the dust. But I didn't get to perform it, so I'll save it for next year.
Well,
I
the
think.
description, I had it in my head, so I hope to see it sometime. My goodness.
Yeah. Eli and I
wild.
performed a version of it, like at a couple shows here in LA. But I thought I'd bring it to Burning Man. So, but yeah. Yeah.
I really hope so. One of the things, I think it was like having chatted with you, and I've had a couple, like kind of claymation stop photography, like puppets, some type of sculpture and combination of these type of things in like video and animation. And I love, like Wallace and Gromit and Pingu. I don't know if you've seen Pingu, the penguin, Swedish. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Okay, Susie, you can blame me, you can curse me or praise me after today, but just look up Pingu, Pingu. It is a Swedish, delightfully made animated clay. And what's interesting is the language is not recognizable. It's actually called Penguinese. So you're actually always watching something that for your mind might be nonsense. Okay. Like when it comes to the words, like no hooks there. So
yeah, it's like did you see Marcel the Shell, the seashell?
I didn't.
I mean, you can watch some, like, it's from a while. They just recently did a movie, but I used to remember the YouTube videos from years ago, and it's just it's a little seashell with googly eyes, and it's all like stop go animation, and then she has little shoes on. So it's a Marcel the shell with shoes on. Wow. And it's like her little. It's really funny. I think it's a she. It might be a he. It might be a they. I'm not actually sure the gender of the show. But they're really quite cute videos, and they're really funny. And they just did a movie of them, or her trying to find their family. So yeah, it's really cute. But that's what Wallace and Gromit. It's like the stop go animation, like stuff like that. I did a Nora Jones music video that's stop go animation. That was really fun. Yeah, it's called "Sinking Soon." It's the name of the song, and it's all done with stop go animation and then puppets. We built all the puppets for it, and we're all wearing green screen suits, so you never see us, but you see all the things moving. And then we used magnets for stuff, for like, there's clothes that come out of a washer, and we like did the magnets to get them to stick on the washing machine, so it looks like they're slowly crawling out. But yeah.
Wow. The reason I have you on the show, Susie, and I believe you were episode 194, and it's nice to have you back on, is because you got a story behind what you say. And I said that earlier. I love that. Like, I love to tell, I love hearing about that. And, yeah, there seems to be such like a vibe of creating that type of world. I had a guest on recently, Sissy Framson, and she's the head of a Swedish punk princess band, which is kind of poppy and really cool, strange music. But she also does their videos and does videos for other bands that are like the mix of the sculptures and just her various creations. And they are so like incredibly wild and brilliant and creative, and like they're new. So it feels like you're seeing, for me, like I'm like, this is really new looking. And I like that in art, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Very.
So now you got Pingu and Volcano, Vulkano, for Swedish, the greatest Swedish princess pop that you didn't know you need, but you did. I wanted to ask you before not taking up too much of your time. Creatively, I see all the different things you do creatively. You know, I obviously love your horror movies and your performances and to get a thrill out of that. And then, you know, talking about puppets and the other things that you work on creatively in film. I wanted to ask you about things connected to that whole process. And I would ask you, hey, Suziey, what you working on? But there's a labor struggle going on right now that you're involved with affecting your work. And I've worked in labor for 24 years, mostly on behalf of teachers and for a little while for electrical workers. So this is something that I do, and it's something I obsess and think about all the time. I just wanted to talk to you, knowing you as a fellow sister unionist. What this means for you? Like, talk about the issues that are at hand. I know my teacher issues. Tell us about like why people have to take this like hard choice to not do what they love.
Yeah, I think it's you know, a lot of people look at the strike and get really upset because they think, you know, actors like Brad Pitt and, you know, Meryl Streep and like very high paying actors, they're like, oh, they're striking because they're not making enough money. Don't they make enough money already? But I really think the strike is more about like that guest star that you see on a TV show or that co-star that you see that made like maybe had 2 lines but like made the whole episode. I think it's those are the people that we're really fighting for. You know, you have to make an insane amount of money with the union just to get health insurance, and a legit working actor who maybe has like 3 co-stars or a guest star or 2 a year, we don't make enough money to even collect health insurance. And most of our money, like, yeah, you get a good day rate, but most of our money is wrapped up in our like residuals, and it can play on basic cable and you can get basically a residual check that's going to be about the same amount you made that day. But for streaming services, they didn't really take into account that at the time that they did this contract, which was years ago. And now when you watch something on Netflix or you watch something on Hulu, or you have like a Hulu original that you booked, you're not going to see any residuals. Residuals are like, I finally was looking at I get residual checks, and I never really paid attention to how they're broken down. But I've gotten checks for like 2 cents, and then I've gotten checks for like $80. And I was looking at what I really make, and all of my residuals do come from like basic cable. And when you look down at like all the streaming, like it's nothing, like no, like zero money. And it's the same for the writers. Luckily, they've worked their contract out, but no one was getting paid. Like we don't make any money after that. And, you know, all we're asking is for the companies to pay us what, you know, what's fair and what we should get. And like, you shouldn't be able to play an episode 100 times and get like 2 cents. That's ridiculous. You should definitely get.
Strikes us as wrong. It strikes most people as wrong, like as right or wrong type thing.
Crazy thing that I read where they went in and they basically asked the big companies to raise membership fees for Netflix and Hulu 2%. And they got up and just left and wouldn't even give us, they just walked out on us. And it's like, we're not even asking anything. My friend and I, we worked out a thing one time where we were thinking, if all of the big companies like Hulu, Amazon, Prime, Netflix, if all of them banded together and they paid every single person in the union, the SAG union and the writers union, if they just gave us 50 grand, all of us 50 grand, that would be less than 3% of their profits. Less than 3% if they paid everybody $50,000.
That's striking.
So,
that's just like, and sometimes in labor struggle, I think one of the things, like there's striking things like that like, I think when you talk to regular people in the street, I still have hope that when you talk about like that type of right and wrong, people know when they're getting screwed over. And people know haven't been screwed over. And when workers talk about being screwed over and see where the screw is coming from, and it's that important. I obviously, from union solidarity, really respected the work you're doing, and think it's just at the heart of the issue of the professional thing. I know I've read about licenses and imaging and being able to use your voice and face, and that's you. That's not.
I mean, even the AI stuff, whole nother thing. The AI, that's terrifying to me. That like, as a background actor, you go and you get scanned, and if your background and you're non-union, you get paid like, I don't know, $80 a day. So it's not that much. And then they're going to give you, oh, here's an extra $100. Can we scan you? You're going to be like, yeah, sure, scan me. But they're not, like, you don't realize that, like, then they own your image in perpetuity. Like, that's insane. Like, they can just use you anytime. They can put you in the background of a big show. They can put you on, in a commercial and not pay you because they own your image. Like, I feel like that should just be illegal. Like, that shouldn't be okay for anything. Like, whether it's entertainment or not, like, across the board. I feel like that's just really scary. Like, what if, what if you want to become, an actor and you really want to work in movies, but, Warner Brothers or whatever already owns your image. So
well, I think a lot of times, on the basis of it, just to dig in, I mean, I think the assumptions end up being a big problem, right? Because I think in public perception, there's always the issue of like, if you're in Hollywood, you're a millionaire, right? And, I work with teachers. If you're a teacher, you're this or that. So there's this popular idea out there. And the blunt facts, no matter way you slice them up or down, is, you're going to have your high tier actresses, right? That are great actors. And, God bless for however the system works, right? But that is not your worker, your performer, your artist, like from day to day.
No. I mean, all my friends I have some friends who you look at them, if you were like Joe Schmo in a tiny town in like Ohio and you saw my friends or, even people like me, like on TV, you're thinking like, oh my God, they must be gazillionaires. They must have all this money. They were on an episode of, I have a friend who did an episode of that Jeffrey Dahmer show.
Oh my gosh.
One was like, oh my gosh, I saw you on Jeffrey Dahmer. It's amazing. And we were talking and he's like, yeah, like it's great that I did that show, but I'm also like, I have 2 waiter jobs that I have to like have just to stay here to continue to like make money, to do what I want to do, to pursue what I want to do. Like every working actor that has like the bit roles have second jobs. They all do. They have to, because they don't have health insurance. They don't make enough money on acting to pay the rent. And that's not
well, I appreciate talking about it. And those of us in labor, I think there's a moral righteousness about it. So I share no disagreement with it. And, I think when it comes down to that, perpetual use issue, talking about image and permanency, like I think it's one of those type of battles. If you lose that fucking battle, then you fucking lost. You have to win. It's like labor thinks like that, but I think it's true sometimes that if you lose this line, if this line is breached, we're talking trouble. And this is working people. And that's why people get so excited about it. Because it's like, I am getting screwed. Stuff is being expropriated on me. I know I'm an artist. You might have a view of me as an artist, but shit's being taken from me and being used and profited off by somebody like else. And it's clear in the industry. And I think there needs to be some maybe more sympathy towards, it's not it's wonderful to be able to create, I'd imagine, in a way that you want, but it doesn't mean you took the easy ramp in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Labor screed over for us. Suziey, oh my gosh. Hey, could you just identify like your particular work category and the union itself, and just to identify the kind of workers that are involved in the strike?
Oh, for you mean SAG?
Yeah.
Like as an actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I belong to SAG-AFTRA. I'm an actor. And that's who's striking. Oh, my cat wants to say hello.
What's cat's name? I forget.
This is Fritz.
Fritz. I remember Fritz, and I remember the story. Oh my God, Fritz the cat, right?
Yes, Fritz would really like his mom to work so that she can feed him. So that'd be great for the strike to be over.
Yeah, Fritz, sometimes something's called kibble shows up, and the cat would be like, I'm post kibble, and it's like, no, you're still in kibble territory.
Yeah.
Best wishes and luck, and I'll in the show notes I'll post some ways to support the vital struggle for workers' rights, Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, and just asking folks to consider the majority of the experiences in this industry. And there's a lot of shows, which is cool. There's a lot of movies, that's cool. There's a lot of independent things, that's cool, but these things need resources and respect in the relation. And I'll post some information in the show notes to help bring that about. Anything, Suziey, before I let you go, anything you want to, I know the work being impacted there, but anything you're creatively looking at going into end of 2023, begin in 2024?
Well, I know, so Horror in the High Desert Part 3 is interim agreement, so it's not supported by any big studios, so that's going to be coming out soon, so I can't talk about that. So that, we filming, editing, I think he's going to do a screening of it in LA somewhere soon, so that would be really amazing, but the first one is still getting on a bunch of top 10 lists, which is nuts. I have Google alerts, and every day I wake up to another one that's like Horror in the High Desert, top 10 of this, Horror in the High Desert, top 15 film in this. So it's been really amazing to be a part of that whole series. And my character is going to get to do some more some spin-offs. So I was talking to the director about that. So there's more fun things coming with Gal and her reporting of, strange and unusual things that maybe are happening around Los Angeles. So that would be really fun to do something like that. And so Horror in the High Desert Part 3. I think it's called Firewatch. I think that's the title.
That's of a teaser. I mean, if you're talking about a categorical teaser, that would be one. I've seen a lot of those articles. Listeners' show might know my adoration of the film and the series. I've seen that in those articles, and some pretty cracking writers, some pretty smart people writing about found footage.
It's been amazing because one of my favorite movies is As Above, So Below, which is a found film kind of, Indiana Jones, but with a girl and some creepy shit happens. And I love that movie. And Horror in the High Desert has been on lists with that film. And for me, that's I feel a little bit like I've arrived. That's really a really cool thing to see it on the same list as some movies that I really highly respect. Even Blair Witch. I'm just oh my God, this is that's the OG.
Yeah.
Cannibal Holocaust. It was on a list with that. And I was that's the original OG of found footage film. So I just feel really, really grateful. It's been an awesome ride, and I'm going to just keep riding it until the ride's over, which I'm hoping it never ends. So.
Well, it's cool, right? And I mean, I think part of it is like in the podcast that I do, and honestly, like going through different subjects. But one of the things I think is really cool for me as a creator, with the podcast and artist myself is, like I really get into these things. And like when I see so if my favorite horror, probably movie category of any subcategory is found footage horror. And so like I'm obsessed about the category, seeing like lots of things in that category and just deeply appreciate the creativity that you find into it, like deep into it. So just real big kudos, like being on those lists. And folks, check out Horror in the High Desert. And I would admit to at least one thing, Suziey, is that I check maybe every day or every other day for new news on number 3. So I'm that type of guy who refreshes, and it's like somebody's like, this is gonna be to me soon, demanding consumer type guy.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and then the pandemic, not the pandemic, the strike's also given me time to like do other little things too. I was really against TikTok. I didn't want to join TikTok. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. But I think I found something that I did join. So I have a thing on TikTok, but I haven't done anything. But I think what I've decided I think I'm going to do is do like coffee and killers. So I'm going to make a cup of coffee and talk about a killer, fictional or non-fictional. It can be both. So I can do the history of Michael Myers, or I can do, a Jeffrey Dahmer episode, but I'll make a cup of coffee. So that's something that's kept me kind of like artistically busy doing that and trying to like film some episodes. So I have like a little backlog and I can like upload those as well.
If I could be presumptuous, I wish to encourage you in this creative endeavor. The podcast itself is new to TikTok, and not to sound goofy or stereotypical, I really like it, but still trying to understand the mechanics is what I would say for myself. But what I did for the show is put up a couple kind of live videos, because when I drop into music on the show, I love featuring live, and artists let me do that and their performances, and posted a couple of those. And I was surprised that people I like capturing the vibe of a place. And sometimes when you get a concert video with movement, you like particularly like punk or whatever you like.
Yeah.
So, since you're newer, maybe we try to figure this out. I would qualify myself as a Dahmer expert for whatever good, wherever that good is, and wherever that Lego piece fits, on the board. But really excited to hear about that idea. And you're gonna dive in and roll that out, huh?
Something to do.
I'm trying to get video evidence that you committed to the project. I shouldn't be doing that, particularly after the labor conversation that we had. You need to keep the cards that you need close to you as close as they can be. Great luck on that. I'll be following, and love to see.
Yeah, I'll be sure.
Doc.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh my gosh, Suziey, I want to thank you so much for coming onto the program and indulging in some kind of shared artsy things and connections, and talking about important stuff too, because you gotta do that. And like I said, the extension of solidarity in the labor work, and just really, part of the thing with the show, being a fan, and part of this the personal in the show itself. I get excited about things I really like to see, read, or music that I hear, and I try to share that excitement. So, like I said, I'm your number one fan, not in a misery type way.
Thank you.
And congratulations on becoming something rather than nothing's official Scream Queen.
Thank you. That's so sweet. That's amazing. That's awesome.
I hope you have a wonderful time, and I'll be in touch soon, Suziey.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This is Something Rather Than Nothing.
And listeners, to stay connected with us and our guests, visit somethingratherthannothing.com. Join our mailing list for exclusive updates and access to guest-created art. If you enjoyed this episode or any episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform. People really read that shit. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our community across the planet. This is a global show, and we like to give a shout out to our many listeners across the world, including many listeners in Canada, Spain, Germany, UK, Argentina, Brazil, India, Thailand, and so many more places. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast for behind the scenes content. And the best way to help the show is to tell your friends about us. If you love it, they'll love it too. Tell your friends who love it. We love you. This is Something Rather Than Nothing Podcast.